Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. If you're looking for jewelry that makes an impact on your self-care routine and your style, Empowerography would love to offer you a discount code to one of our exclusive partners, Quartz & Canary Jewelry and Wellness Company. Please use code EMPOWER15 to receive 15% off upon checkout at www.quartzandcanary.com. Quartz & Canary is truly the place where spirituality meets style. Hello, everyone. Brad Walsh here, your host of the Empowerography Podcast. Today, my guest is Stephanie Marie. She is a freelance marketing copywriter and a podcast host of podcast Cutting Through Chaos. How are you doing today, Stephanie?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for taking the time out to be part of the podcast and talk with me and share a bit about your story and your journey. It's great to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. So let's jump right in. You are a freelance marketing copywriter and a podcast host, a wife, a mom of two boys. How long have you been freelance copywriting?
About a decade with intermittent breaks to raise the kids.
Yes, of course. Okay. And how did you get into that world of copywriting? Where did that come about and how did it come about for you?
Well, I've always loved writing. I was an English major in university. And so I always did it for fun. And then out of university, I started as an editor, developmental editor for textbooks at Oxford University Press. Okay. And from there, I moved on to a sports supplement company that basically had like an internal agency. So I started as an editor there and then moved on to writing for them. And I was so fortunate to be mentored by some really amazing directors and the CMO there who were just awesome influences and taught me a lot. And then I eventually moved on to BlackBerry, where I worked in brand messaging for products and software. So I kind of created like the internal messaging platform for marketing materials to be based off of. Yeah. And then with the huge layoffs they had, I think it was in 2012 or so, I was laid off. I decided along with a lot of people, and I chose to take that as an opportunity to really pursue my freelance career full time. And from there, I basically, started my business full on. And I also was a personal trainer. So I kind of did like half and half. With my time. Yeah. And that was great. And then I had my first son. I took some time off. It's kind of a long story, but my husband was offered a job in Florida. So we took the opportunity to go down there for a few years and I raised the kids while we were there. And then we came back and I'm writing again. So
excellent. Are you still personal training as well, or have you left that behind?
No. I left that behind, but I do a lot of writing in the fitness and health and wellness space. So I still am like really involved in that arena, which is cool. I really love writing for that space. So
awesome. So what excites or inspires you most about your career?
Oh, a lot of it. I would say the most exciting thing to me is starting with a brief and a blank page and getting to create something out of that. I just find that like such a fun challenge. And I also love that my job is really different every day because I write for many different clients. So there's different industries and genres. So it's just always different. So I really love that.
Taking nothing and turning it into something.
Yeah.
So let's dive into some of the struggles and battles you've had and discuss a little bit about mental health. Now, I know you've gone through and fought a number of battles yourself. You first dealt with postpartum, then hypomania, and finally you were diagnosed with bipolar disorder type 2. Throw into the mix your journey with alcohol. That makes for a very volatile situation, I would think. So how long did the PPD last for you? How long was that phase of dealing with that how long did you go through that for?
Well, with my first son, I didn't experience postpartum depression.
Okay.
But with my second son, I did immediately after he was born. I would say it probably went on for, it's really a blurry time of my life, honestly, like probably 3 to 5 months before I experienced my first documented hypomania. Because looking back now, I know I had been hypomanic before many times, but I hadn't been seeing a therapist before. So I was seeing a therapist for what we thought was postpartum depression. And then when I had my first very notable hypomania, under the watchful eye of my therapist and a psychiatrist, that was when they started to say, oh, okay, maybe it looks more like bipolar. And then as time went on, it did prove to be bipolar disorder too. So yeah, that's kind of how it unfolded at first.
Now with postpartum, is it like if a woman has more than one child, is it a common thing for women to not experience PPD with one and then possibly with another, or is it just depends on the person? And I mean, typically, now maybe this is my ignorance here because I don't know a lot about PPD, but is there a typical time frame that it usually lasts with women, or is it different for everybody?
I don't know. I don't know as much about postpartum depression as I do about bipolar, because it turns out, probably looking back now, it was more like a bipolar depression that I was experiencing, brought on by the trigger of childbirth. So triggers with bipolar can be positives or negatives. It doesn't matter. Any major change in your life can be a trigger that can set off a bipolar episode. And after we kind of looked back at my life and recounted a lot of other experiences, that's how we kind of, my doctors and we kind of figured out that it looked like a bipolar because of the hypomania that followed it. And that's really like the difference with bipolar versus depression is there's the presence of hypomania or mania. Okay.
Can you, for those of us that don't know, can you tell us what hypomania is?
Yeah, so hypomania is a lesser version of full-blown mania with bipolar. Bipolar disorder 1, people who have that experience full-blown mania, sometimes with psychosis. So I experienced hypomania, which is, for me, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but for me personally, I get really, really confident, overconfident maybe.
Right.
I feel like I can do anything, achieve anything. It sounds really positive, like a higher energy level, can like work out multiple times a day. But I've learned through my podcast that I spoke to one expert named Julie Fast, and she educated me on the differences in mania in terms of euphoric mania and dysphoric mania. And so according to her, euphoric mania is kind of the mania that I just described, which is like, it's really upbeat and you're positive and you feel amazing and you're talking faster and you're really confident. You need to sleep less. Or in full-blown mania, sometimes you don't need to sleep at all for days.
Wow. For days and days?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so dysphoric mania, on the other hand, is kind of like the more, it's also known as a mixed episode, which has symptoms of depression as well as mania or hypomania. Okay. So you feel me personally, when I'm in a dysphoric hypomania, I feel very low, but I'm very agitated and irritated. And say, I guess like a good example of it would be like if you're in traffic and you're like so on edge and agitated and like yelling at people but you feel terrible inside. That's kind of like just like an example of maybe me and dysphoric mania. But dysphoric mania is more commonly known as a mixed episode. That's probably how people know it better. So
now, is there anything in particular that brings on an episode of hypomania? Like, is there something like not enough sleep or something like just something that triggers it in particular, or it's just very random and it just kind of happens?
there definitely are, it can be random as well. Like it's a genetic, bipolar is genetic. So, you know, but you can have triggers like environmental and stress triggers that can bring on, like you said, not sleeping enough. That is definitely, like, people who have bipolar, we need to have regulated sleep for sure. Traveling, you know, around the world or into a different through countries or time zones can be a trigger. And then there's like smaller triggers, like changes in the weather. Usually like around when the winter starts to come, I feel a lot lower, but some people might experience a mania as well. I don't know. So yeah, triggers and genetics, that's kind of.
Does diet contribute to it at all either?
I'm actually, it's really interesting. I'm actually learning through Julie Fast, who I interviewed, about certain like supplements that aren't good for bipolar. And she's kind of been educating me. I can't really speak to it yet because I don't know enough, but I do know that like I have to have I regulate my diet as much as possible and try to avoid like sugars whenever I can, just because I don't want anything else contributing to like a mood swing if I can help it.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. What are the differences between bipolar disorder type 2 and type 1?
Mainly the mania. So full-blown mania is bipolar type 1. And like I said, sometimes people with full-blown mania don't, versus like hypomania, you feel maybe less of a need to sleep, like you sleep less. Whereas full mania, maybe you don't sleep at all for a while. Also, there is the presence sometimes of psychosis with full-blown mania. And I haven't experienced that, but I have interviewed people who have, and it is not pleasant.
I'm sure.
Extremely difficult to deal with and cope with.
I couldn't even imagine. What thoughts went through your mind when you were first diagnosed and when it was first discovered that you have bipolar disorder?
Well, it's funny, like there is bipolar in my family. And so even though that is the case, and I know it's genetic and I knew it was genetic at the time, I was still really surprised. So a little bit of disbelief, just because, you know, when it hits you, you don't think it's going to happen to you. And then it hits you and it's kind of shocking, even if it all makes sense. So a little bit of disbelief. Also, you know, like there was a lot of shame in my early journey with bipolar. I've known I had bipolar for about 4.5 years now. But the first couple of years, just a lot of, I was embarrassed to tell people. I didn't really tell people, like only my close family and like a few friends knew, because I held so much shame, and I held like a stigma in my own mind that I had internalized. So I don't even think it was like other people shaming me at all. It was just me feeling shame from my own stigma that I held. And it took me a couple years to kind of work through that, a lot of therapy. And I eventually got to a point where, you know, I was just sick of hiding. It felt like I was hiding this dirty secret that I didn't tell people. And I was tired of that. It felt exhausting. And I just decided, I'm just going to start being open about this. I'm just going to start being open about this. And the response that I got from people was so empathetic and so, I don't want to say understanding is not the right word, because I know a lot of people still don't understand bipolar. And that's one thing I want to work on with my podcast, of course. But yeah, people's responses were very empathetic and sympathetic, and
well, that's encouraging for sure then.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, I know you've had your own struggles with alcohol and drinking. How did that affect the bipolar disorder?
Yeah, that's kind of like a chicken and egg situation, because looking back now, I mean, I was diagnosed with bipolar 4.5 years ago, but looking back, I can see obvious depressive and hypomanic episodes in my past. So from as early as, I don't know, maybe my late teens or around 20. So, and I started drinking in my teens. During my teens, it was really just like binge drinking with my friends on the weekends. But
as teens often
as I got
do.
older, yeah, I wouldn't say it was anything. I mean, I definitely got out of control every time I drank, but it wasn't like all the time. It was kind of a teenager thing.
Yeah.
But as I got older, drinking became more of a crutch for me, I guess. I abused alcohol often. And I didn't know that I was coping with mood swings that were bipolar. So I didn't know it at the time, but I think I was self-medicating often. Like if I was feeling really amazing, I would want to go out and party and have fun and be the life of the party. If I was feeling really low, I would just want to black out, honestly. So I drank to black out quite often. By the end, I had my last drink August 14th, 2019. By the end, I was blacking out a lot. And it's the worst feeling, waking up and having no clue what you said or did. You know? I'm very fortunate to have a husband who's incredibly supportive, and he was always the one that would put me to bed and take care of me. But that's a lot to put on a person, you know?
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
That was sort of my breaking point. Like we went on this trip and I day drank during the day while he was at meetings. It was his work trip.
Okay.
And then we went out and I got really drunk and he put me to bed. And the next morning we woke up and he didn't say anything at all. And I kind of felt like, man, I have beaten him down into just accepting this. And that is horrible. I felt horrible. And that was kind of a breaking point for me. All of the shame and embarrassment. Yeah, it did. And I went into his home office the next morning and I said, I think I have a problem with alcohol. And then I just broke down and I think I cried for several days.
Wow.
I went to a meeting and that was the last time I took a drink. I haven't touched it since.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So through getting sober and finding clarity, being able to better cope and manage your bipolar, you decided to advocate for and help others going through similar things. So what was it that inspired you to start helping others?
Kind of like I said before, I was just tired of hiding and wanted to, a big part of my early journey with bipolar disorder, knowing I had it, was, like I said, shame and very isolating because it was isolating because I didn't know anyone else personally who had bipolar that was open about it. And so I had like really supportive doctors and friends and family, close friends and family. So I was so fortunate for that.
Yeah.
And they were very sympathetic to my situation, but I didn't have anybody I could talk to, or I didn't know where to turn to hear anybody else's story who had gone through the same thing as me. So I wanted to give people that who are going through a bipolar diagnosis or going through a tough time with their bipolar and struggling.
Yeah.
And I also want to give like a little bit of support to people who love someone with bipolar, because I've seen what my husband's gone through and he's been like a rock for me. I'm so lucky to have him. And I know not everybody has that, but people that do, that have somebody who loves them and wants to support them, I just want to give them a place where they can go and listen to a similar story or a story with similarities, even minor, that they can just feel not as alone. And then the third thing is I just want to help educate people who want to learn about bipolar because, as one of my guests said, like, we don't have horns coming out of our head. we're regular people, and I just want to, part of it is like putting a face to bipolar disorder. Each one of my guests that comes on and shares their story, they're helping put a face to bipolar and make it not as stigmatized and a little bit more understood.
Yeah. So you've mentioned your podcast. You started the podcast called Cutting Through Chaos May this year. Can you tell us a bit about the podcast? And I imagine the inspiration was wanting to help people and having a wider reach, but just tell us a bit about the podcast itself.
Sure. Yeah. So every episode I have a different guest who either has bipolar or who is an expert on bipolar.
Okay.
And we just, if somebody has bipolar, we just dig into parts of their story, and they share their experiences. I ask them what their diagnosis was like. What it was like living with undiagnosed bipolar is a really interesting question too, because in hindsight, you can see a lot clearer than you can when you are struggling through something.
Right.
So we do that. And then in the first couple of podcast episodes, I kind of introduced myself in a way. The first episode, I had my husband on, and we talked really openly about our relationship in terms of how we battled through bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
And then the second episode, I had a recovery coach come on, and she sort of interviewed me about my alcohol abuse and how I felt it pertained to my bipolar. Yeah. So then after that, I've always had guests on. So it's really great. It's been cathartic for me too. So.
Now, I mean, mental health, in my opinion anyways, is still, and I know you've mentioned this already, it's still viewed as a dirty little secret and gets swept under the rug, even though now in 2020. I mean, what do you think we can do to change the stigma and negativity that's tied to mental health in society today? And why do you think it's still viewed as this dirty little secret?
I think we can talk about it. You know, I think that the more, if you feel compelled to share your story, please do, because the more somebody talks about mental health, the more we break down stigma. And by that, I just mean we put a face to it and we help each other empathize with situations. And we also educate too, you know, like a lot of fear, I think, is based in the unknown. So the more we can educate each other about our experiences that we go through, the less fear there will be around mental health struggles.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't believe that still, I mean, it's still swept under the rug. I mean, it's so common and prevalent in society today, yet it's still swept under the rug like it doesn't exist. It's horrible.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, I mean, I don't know why that is still such the case, but I agree with you that, you know, it is swept under the rug. I wish that it was like somebody saying that they have a physical ailment, you know, would be the same as saying I'm having a bad mental health day, or my bipolar has flared up and I'm experiencing a depression. Like, I wish that it was more socially acceptable to just come out and say something like that. Even I'm still hesitant in my daily life to tell people I'm having a bad day. It's easier in like to say last week I had a rough few days, but I'm feeling better now. But it's hard in the moment to say I'm having a rough day right now. You know what I mean? It's hard to share that in the moment. So I guess all I can say is that if you feel compelled to share your story, even just with your close friends, it doesn't have to be on social media or whatever, just even with your close friends and family, please do if you feel compelled. Because, and I say if you feel compelled because a lot of people just don't feel like they want to share their story. And I know that there's a lot of reasons behind that, and that's okay because everybody's different. Yeah. But if you feel like you want to share your story, please do.
Yeah, I think talking about it just will help with raise awareness. And like you had said as well, putting a face to mental health, I think is going to be and will be a big help as well. Because it's almost like it's faceless, you know what I mean? If we put faces to it and people speak up, say, hey, I struggle with this. I struggle with anxiety. I struggle with depression, and just talk about it more and get it out there so that people know that, because I think that when people are dealing with something, not for all, but I think that some they're scared. It comes from the fear of speaking out about it. But I think when someone else comes out about something like that or speaks out, it gives you the permission, shall we say, to speak as well. So you don't feel like because you don't feel like you're alone in it. You know what I mean? So I think that the more people that speak out about it, the more the ripple effect will take place, or the domino effect will take place, and say, hey, this person's suffering with it. I'm not alone here. There are other people who deal with it.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And I've actually found that through my podcast is that since being open and sharing my story, I've had people message me or approach me and say, like, I had no idea you were going through that because I've gone through this. Mm-hmm. And, you know, here's where we're similar, and I've had similar emotions or experiences. And I just really think, and I've found that the more you choose to be open, the more other people will choose to be open with you.
Well, I think it also gives people that suffer with this affliction or these afflictions of mental health that a place where they can speak to others who more understand it better because they're going through it and they've gone through it. So they know what you're dealing with as someone who also suffers with it. So that as well, I think, would help immensely for people.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also just talking about it takes, like, you know, some people are afraid to say, how is your mental health today? Mm-hmm. Or mm-hmm. to just say, like, you seem a little bit down. Are you okay?
Yeah.
You know, and so even talking about it just takes the fear out of that. Like, if you're like you don't have to be an open book, but if you are somewhat open, mm-hmm. People feel less afraid to approach you.
Yeah.
And check in on you, I guess. So there's that benefit too.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine too, though, that some people don't want to ask because they're scared that they might offend or trigger something, or, you know what I mean? And I think that needs to be brought out into the open too, that you can ask people how they're doing, and you should. But again, I think another part of that is as well that and I was talking with someone about this the other day, is that, you know, in passing, in conversation with people will just inherently ask, oh, how you doing today? Not that they really give a shit. It's just conversation. It's just a conversational piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, they're not genuinely asking because they care.
Right.
No, it's true,
right.
though.
Yeah, I know. And that's just part of, like, I mean, a daily conversation, if somebody says, like, how you doing today? I'm not going to be like, well, you know, but I mean, like, I think just being open about your mental health struggles to some extent allows people the opportunity to, like, if they want to dive deep, it allows them that opportunity, and maybe it makes them less afraid of, like, insulting you, or, you know.
But again, I think people are scared sometimes too, because they don't know if that person is willing to get into that conversation. Like, I want to ask questions. I want to know about this stuff. I mean, but sometimes you worry, like, should I be asking this person this? Is this being too invasive? Is this really something I should be asking this person? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, and yeah, I totally get that. And I think part of it is just, like, you know, it's such on an individual basis kind of thing, because you have to read the person, you know, if the person's not open, hasn't been open about these things before, then maybe they don't want you to dive in. But
right.
If they are, then it's probably, I don't know, I think it's probably okay to just open up the conversation with, like, maybe a slightly more specific question than how are you doing, if you want a different answer, you know?
Yeah.
Like, how is your mental health, or how are you feeling lately?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. What was a turning point in your life, and how did that affect you?
A turning point for me, I mean, the most recent one for sure is when I stopped drinking. That changed my life in, like, every way. Honestly, it has just been the best thing I've ever done. I mean, like, aside from having my kids.
Yeah. Yes, of course.
It's been incredible. It's just been such a so clarifying, and not to say that it wasn't a massive struggle at first. It was so difficult. And I think I didn't realize that for me, like, almost harder than taking my last drink was coping with the emotions that came up after it. 'Cause it's like I had tamped down all of my emotions with alcohol, you know, and everything rises to the top and you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so that was really tough, but it forced me to work through a lot of things. And it's allowed me to also manage my bipolar a lot better. So that was for sure the biggest turning point.
Yeah, that's a big thing for sure. If it's helped you manage your bipolar better, that's amazing. Yeah. What's something people seem to misunderstand about you?
Probably that I am an open book. There's a lot, obviously, that I don't share because I don't think you need to overshare and share everything. But I do want to be as open as I feel comfortable to help other people, give them space to think maybe they can start to be a little bit more open too if they want to.
Right.
So that's probably a misconception.
Okay. What would you say is one of the best pieces of advice you've ever received?
Oh, that's a good one. My mom always said to me, I always had a hard time understanding why people weren't kind to other people or warm or welcoming. And she always told me, well, everybody's going through their own struggles. Yeah. And some people struggle with, say, something like self-confidence, and they don't feel confident enough to be warm or, say hello first, the little things.
Yeah.
So that was a good piece of advice from my mom. And ultimately it was really just like, think about what someone else is going through and try to be understanding of that.
Yeah. See, I mean, so often we as people, we get so wrapped up in our own shit that we don't think about or even acknowledge the fact that you have no idea the struggles that somebody else is going through. And I'm sure people who see you think they would have no idea that you are dealing with bipolar disorder. So it's little things like that. It's not always easy to do, but I think we need to be a little more empathetic and get into that mindset that you don't have any idea what that person you pass on the street is going through. None. Yeah. And just to have a little bit of empathy for people,
Yeah.
What would you say is one of the most important things you've learned in your life? And what was your life like before learning it? And what was your life like after learning it?
One of the most important things I've learned along the way is not to put so much emphasis on what people think of you. I think that's just part of getting a little bit older too. You start to give less shits about other people's opinions of you. And it took me a long time to get there. It really did. And it's still obviously a struggle. Like everybody cares a little bit, but I find myself being a little bit more freed of that. So that's empowering.
Okay. What is that saying? Other people's opinions are none of you are none of your business.
Right.
Right. What makes you feel inspired or like your best self?
Taking care of myself makes me feel like my best self. So by that, I mean physical and mental health, going for a walk, being in nature, doing a workout, eating healthy, being around loved ones helps my mental health. So that makes me feel like my best self for sure. I feel like if I can get all of those ducks in a row, then I can conquer a lot of things.
Conquer the world.
Yeah.
Who have been the 3 most influential people in your life?
I have to say both of my parents for sure in their own way.
We can count them as one. Your parents are one.
Okay. Okay. Trust me, they're very different, but yeah, my parents, my husband for sure. He has been very influential just in terms of like, he has helped me really see my potential. I struggled with self-confidence a lot in my life, and he's been someone that's always believed in me and seen all of my potential and has helped me in a very encouraging way to help uncover that. I mean, obviously I've done a lot of work myself, but he's definitely helped me. And then the third person, I would say maybe is my maternal grandmother, my Grammy. She was such a powerhouse, but like in a very subtle way. Yeah. She was just a strong woman, and she was very inspiring just in terms of the life that she lived and how much she loved people and cared about people and was so gentle and kind, but also strong and firm.
If you could hold on to one memory from your life forever, which one would it be?
Well, I have to choose two, and I would say the birth of my children.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Those were great moments.
How would you like to be remembered?
I think first and foremost as a kind person that cares about people.
Yeah.
And then I would say I'd like to be remembered as somebody who stands up for what they believe in and stands up for what they believe in.
All right. How would you describe yourself?
Why is that the hardest question?
Because you're talking about yourself. That's why.
I know. Totally. I would describe myself as empathetic and ambitious and a go-getter.
All right. What do you feel most grateful for in your life?
All of my family. So not just like, for sure, my husband and my kids, but all of my family. I have a big family. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. So my sisters and my brother, I'm so grateful for them. Yeah. And my mom and dad. I'm so grateful for my mom and dad. They have just been like such great like mentors. I don't know how else to describe them.
They just shape who you are.
Yeah.
If you had 24 hours left on Earth, what would you do?
I would spend as much time as possible outside in nature with my kids and my husband. I would, that's it. I would just soak it up, I think. Yeah.
What's the biggest change you want to make in your life?
The biggest change I want to make in my life. That's a tough one too. I feel like I feel like I'm on a really good trajectory right now, and I like where my life is going. I don't know if I want to change much other than, honestly, I don't feel like I want to change much in my life. I think I just want to keep becoming more self-aware. Yeah. And keep trying my best to help other people in some way.
What makes you smile?
A lot. I love to smile. Doesn't everybody?
Yes.
Yeah. You know, I think other people, well, to be specific, I would say like seeing my kids smile and seeing them laugh and just enjoy themselves and just be little free spirits. That makes me smile.
Money or fame?
Definitely not fame. But also like money doesn't seem that important either. So I'll say money, but fame, definitely not fame. Though.
Yeah. Early bird or night owl?
Again, neither. Because I just love sleep, and I think maybe because sleep's so important to me, but I don't like to get up early and I don't like to stay up late. So
all right then.
Yeah.
If you were guaranteed the correct answer to one question in life, what would you ask?
If I was guaranteed the correct answer, I would want to know what the afterlife is like.
Okay. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
See your value and know your potential.
I love that. So simple, yet so hard to do for a lot of people.
Yes, it is. It is. Yeah.
And lastly, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, what do you think that last 30 seconds would sound like? I'm stumping you today.
Be kind. Yeah. I would say be kind to people because like we said, we don't know what anyone else is going through. People go through life and put a smile on because it's what's expected and it's the socially, normal thing to do. Yeah. But everybody has a struggle that they've been through. Everybody has a story. So always be respectful, always be kind.
I love it. Simple and yet effective. Stephanie, thank you. so much for taking the time to be here and be part of the podcast and be part of this community I'm creating and sharing this, your struggles and your journey and your story, and giving us some insight as to what bipolar disorder is all about and what you're dealing with and how you have dealt with it. And I truly appreciate you being here and sharing this. Again, this is also getting it out there and making people aware that mental health is not a bad thing. It's not a dirty secret. It shouldn't be swept under the rug. So thank you for sharing your story and your journey with us here today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was my pleasure chatting with you. I thoroughly enjoyed our chat, and I've been educated today, so thank you for that.
Thank you. It was such a joy to be here. Thank you.
Once again, my name is Brad Walsh, host of your Empowerography Podcast. Today, my guest has been Stephanie Marie. She is a freelance marketing copywriter and also a podcast host of Cutting Through Chaos. Thanks, Stephanie. I hope you have an awesome day today.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at viseuphoria.ca and follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.